Clair Obscur, L'Expeditions, Tre is pumping numbers harder than your mom pumps D on a Tuesday. Not on a Friday, but a Tuesday. Because she works 24/7, 7 days a week, boy. That's right. Look at these numbers. They are absolutely amazing. Clair Obscur, even though people are slowly starting to, talk less about it, is honestly still one of the strongest, most incredible games of the year. Look at this chart. And I know I love charts. I know you love charts because we're smart people here, okay? This was the release date. It started on a cold, hard 50K, okay? And then it got pumped. Then people started talking even better about it and it went to 145K. And now it's down at 50K. And some of you may think, well, isn't that a decent drop off? No, because you need to understand. A month and more has passed. More than 2 months have passed. Okay, at this point, it's slowly crawling in 2.5 months, and the player base peak on 24 hours is 50K. This retention is absolutely insane. This is peak. This is what every game wish it looks like. This is what Diablo 4 dreams about having. Look at this. It's so amazing. It is going down, obviously, but again, you would expect a 60% drop in for an average game in roughly like 2 weeks, 3 weeks tops. But this game, 2 months, baby. That is absolute insanity. And the best part, it's still going strong. And it's probably going to be an expansion, okay? And the drop-off is still extremely slow. Clair Obscur is absolutely just dominating everything, okay? It is what it is, boys. And it's absolutely amazing.
33 might be one of the most important RPG releases in years, and no, that's not an exaggeration.
True.
The feeling I experienced about a decade ago when entering Skellige and Novigrad and The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt for the first time is a similar feeling I had when traversing the war-torn environments of Lumiere. It's a high-fidelity, turn-based RPG with deep narrative roots, stylish, surrealist art direction, exquisite music, and combat that feels tactile despite being turn-based. It's everything AAA publishers claim.
Exactly. And I don't even know what tactile means.
Players no longer want. They've conditioned.
Listen. I majored in fucking business, finance, not words, okay?
Does to believe that this is not what we want. Yet it instantly clicked with gamers because it respected the player's time and intelligence. It also just constantly surprised and
Dude, the respected player's intelligence is honestly so understated because people forget the Dragon Age Veilguard dropped before this and how the puzzles in that game looked, how the combat in that game looked. Like, half of the puzzles in Dragon Age the Veilguard was like, here's nothing in a room except this clearly lit up thing that's very big and you can see that there's something supposed to be in there. And not that that's insulting your intelligence. The insulting of your intelligence parts is the fact that the thing that you're supposed to put in there is literally right next to it because BioWare is too afraid that you're too stupid and you're gonna miss it. Yeah. Okay, that's the actual insult intelligence part. Clair Obscur does not do that. Also, by the way, Tre is probably not how you say 33 in French. I just made that up.
Delighted with huge WTF moments and reveals. It's not very often I play a game and just know this is going to be an all-time experience. That's Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and I do take some pride in being one of the few that highlight.
Again, listen. There was literally no reason why mommy didn't need the socks and didn't need something on her hands, okay? But they just didn't give her any socks. They just didn't give her any Adidas sneakers. Right choices were made.
Highlighted Expedition 33 months ago as an example of how this games industry is changing for the better. Still, I don't think anyone envisioned or expected something this masterful from a first-time studio. It's a game that very much...
Yeah, also, by the way, no one ever talks about this, so I'm gonna finally talk about it. We can actually see it right here, okay? Look.
This games industry...
Yeah, look. There's an item. It's right there in the open. You don't actually need to climb a mountain to get it. It's just there, you know? Clair Obscur in creating a world that you can traverse. This is something that almost no other game at this point does anymore. It just actually has big open spaces that look nice, and if you explore them, you're maybe gonna find something. Okay, and I never honestly thought that this would work. I always assumed, and again, I'm gonna use Dragon Age as an example here because it's a great example about how not to do things. Dragon Age the Whale God, you know how they did secrets? So actually, paint. Let's use paint. Let me open paint it because we need to use more paint because that's smart. I don't know why this website where I open paint, and yes, I'm opening paint on a website. Um, is hard, but it is what it is. Okay, sharing screen. I'm gonna draw. I'm gonna make you believe, boys. Okay, listen. So here's how it is. What this side is gonna be Clair Obscur, and this is gonna be Dragon Age. This is how it happens in Clair Obscur. You have this whole place that you can traverse to, and maybe there's like something that leads here to a different place that's also a giant place that you can traverse here. And here you have all these paths. You can go here, you can do this, something goes here, something's a little bit more straight. But there's levels. There's a lot of things that you can do here, and it doesn't feel the same. And this, now, my friends, this is Dragon Age of the Whale God, okay? And this is how it happens in Dragon Age. You ready? Bam. This is Dragon Age. You have the only chance of going right there, actually. Wait. Okay? You have your only chance is to go right there. Okay? This is all you can do. And maybe if you're lucky, here's like a wall that you need to break that you can go, and there's literally just some kind of meaningless trinket right here. Now, I'm not saying Clair Obscur doesn't have meaningless trinkets. If you go here, there's going to be some useless stuff here. There's going to be some useless stuff here, but they actually can be comboed, so it's not really useless. It's actually Biss. Wow, that is the worst Biss I have ever seen in my life, but it is what it is. Okay? But in Dragon Age Veilguard, this right there is trash, okay? Whatever it is, it's actually trash. It's shit. Okay? And maybe if you're lucky, there's like another small route that you can go here, and there's again nothing here. This is what Dragon Age the Veilguard does, and a lot of other games do, versus what Clair Obscur does. Clair Obscur is not like, for example, what's the stupid thing called? Dark Souls, but everything is just oversaturated, and this is like level 1, and actually right above it, it's like a level 2 layer that you can also explore. There's 50 trillion things. It's not even oversaturated. It's relatively open. In spacing, Clair Obscur is more akin to Dragon Age the Veilguard, design-wise, because it's relatively empty. There's not that much to see, but it looks good. But because it's just open, not just like a straight damn corridor that insults your intelligence, it's really good. People like it. And I can't blame them because it's really good because of that, okay? That's how it is.
Industry is changing for the better. Still, I don't think anyone envisioned or expected something this masterful from a first-time studio. It's a game that very much so should not exist, but it does represent the talent and politics that are plaguing so much of the AAA games industry.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever just happened was pretty PG-18.
The creativity and magic is still there in this industry. It is beating so many stories, so many experiences, so many ideas being flushed down the creative drain due to the AAA games industry's modern playbook of risk aversion and chasing trends. The bold vision we see from iconic studios these days is often dabbling in a live service concept they have no business touching.
Shows Fallout 76 literally game that's more microtransaction than actual game at this point.
And yet, they spend nearly a decade fucking around and finding out with it. It's a repetitive cycle, and one that has made me appreciate what smaller dev teams are building and accomplishing. I've already talked about extensively in the past about former BioWare veterans working on the ambitious Exodus,
Exodus looks like honeypot, I'm not gonna lie. I am currently not putting my money on Exodus, if you do not know about it. It looks slightly too good, and I'm not trusting these BioWare devs, okay? We're talking about the future where everyone is the milkshake mix. So that's pretty stupid. And what else? Well, that's actually it. Now, admittedly, there are games that I'm spacing out, but the Chrono Odyssey, there we go. Chrono Odyssey, when I first came out, I, as many other people, said, this can't be real. This looks too good, too good, too good. And now it's coming out and it's potentially gonna actually be good. Now we need to see the combat and leveling systems and whatnot, but I mean, it's real and it looks good currently.
Spiritual successor of sorts to Mass Effect. The former Witcher 3 director and other CD Projekt Red veteran
This is also pretty hyped, not gonna lie. Have you seen the trailer for this? It's really good.
are working on the Blood of Dawnwalker, very Witcher 3-esque, and even this year, besides Expedition 33, we've seen surprise smash hits like Drug Dealing Schedule 1 coming from a single developer, Blueprints, an excellent puzzle game also from a single developer's creative vision. Last year there was Balatro, and another game that will be actually in the Game of the Year conversation later this year, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is trash. Everyone should delete it and review it negatively because Kingdom Come Deliverance is only not considered trash because no one actually finishes it, but when you finish it, you're like, oh, this shit is just propaganda, is it not? Yes, because it is. It's not exactly too well, actually, it is pretty goddamn woke, but it's propaganda mostly. Kingdom Come Deliverance was exactly tips propaganda.
Isn't this massive behemoth of a development empire? The developer Warhorse certainly employs.
And I hope Warhorse collapses. I hope their next project completely fails and burns and Vavra gets what he deserves, aka loses everything. His company and pride, what's left of it.
A few hundred, but they made the game for less than $50 million. You compare that to the thousands of people working on AAA franchises like Call of Duty or Spider-Man or Dragon Age or Assassin's Creed, with budgets in the hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars and dev cycles that are taking longer than ever before. The AAA games industry is broken, and games like Expedition 33 are showcasing a different path forward. The tools and tech are here now. The need to have this massive organization and structure isn't what's needed anymore. Creatives need to be empowered, and that just isn't happening, or going to happen with the C-suite Wall Street executives running these companies right now. The AAA industry will continue to buckle under its own weight, tripping over bloated development cycles, making tone-deaf design decisions, and running on a mission to delight the biggest modern audience possible, which in turn delights no one. And certainly there will be some successes. Grand Theft Auto 6 and its animated couches, it will probably be a must-play with the most innovative.
Is Grand Theft 6 just also, by the way, even happening? Because I I I honestly think that computers run on black magic. There's no fucking way you're gonna convince me ever that these gates that move and blah blah that any of that shit ever works. Okay, you're never gonna convince me that there's not some kind of a level of magic involved. I'm not, by the way, kidding. I literally will. I do not believe this shit at all. But at the same time, you're not gonna convince me that the GTA 6 is actually gonna do separate reflections from every surface and lighting for every object separately, like you can see in the trailers and whatnot, where you see them entering the store, and every single bottle is reflecting everything that exists in the store. Okay, there is no way anything is gonna be able to run that.
Innovative.
But if that's reality, first dibs on playing GTA 6 on Google's quantum computer.
Innovative design that we've seen, but that path is one exclusive to Rockstar Games, a high that so many are chasing and not even getting close to reaching. It's why after Baldur's Gate 3 released and we saw panic from the industry about it setting a new standard, I genuinely was confused. Larian didn't set a new standard, they just reintroduced an old one which was focused on player freedom and meaningful choice, aspects that so many big name studios from Bethesda to BioWare have struggled with in these modern times. It's fair in my mind to question the process of these once mighty giants and whether or not the
Also, again, this is true, and this is also a slightly bigger conversation, and it is a simple one, honestly. It's the fact that A lot of people are saying, "Oh, Clair Obscur reinvented the wheel. They did so much." No, they didn't. Clair Obscur literally did zero unique things in their game. In fact, again, as Legendary drops just said, not Legendary drops, Legacy Kill HD. I'm sorry. Um, as he just said, Baldur's Gate 3 also didn't reinvent the wheel. Most really good games, Black Myth, Wukong, and whatnot, none of them reinvented anything. They just did something that was already done a million times, but did it really good.
Industry is broken, and I believe a game like Expedition 33 does in fact prove it is. At the very least, some within this industry are understanding the importance of this moment and why a game like Expedition 33 truly can flip this games industry on its head. Ex-PlayStation boss Shuhei Yoshida earlier in the month explained that the $50 Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is the perfect balance of AAA ambition, AA budget, and independent vision. This is the path the industry should be pursuing. And he further added, I hope the game gets the success it deserves because it's time for AA games to regain their.
Yeah, I'm not. Listen, I don't care what game comes out except the next expansion for Diablo 4 because I want to laugh at that so hard. I don't care what other game than what that one comes out, and GTA 6, I guess. I am not paying above $50. Games, I am firmly convinced that games should cost 40 max. Okay? If your game costs 60, God forbid 70 or goddamn 80, I'm never buying it. Yar har har. I'm downloading some stuff.
Market share. Unfortunately, that success has happened. 33 days, 3.3 million in sales. I don't believe that this includes Game Pass numbers, but for everybody involved, Sandfall Interactive, Kepler, which is the publisher overseeing all of this, this has just been a massive success story, and they're already talking about future plans for, more games, and hopefully this is going to represent a model that not necessarily the AAA games industry, but indie and smaller studios are following, because this perfectly exemplifies, I think, a healthy industry that a lot of us want to personally see. And like I said, it's not just the fact that the game, has been a massive success in terms of sales, it's also the fact that people are absolutely loving it. I talked about, my impressions earlier on in the video, saying that I think it's masterful. I think it's one of the best games I've played in years, but that's also reflected on places like Metacritic, in which you have scores of like 9.8 on PC, 9.7 on consoles, and truly everybody who.
Of course, the console players are gonna be, no, 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 it's not an Xbox exclusive title.
Experiences this just walks away with WTF moment. Like, it's just you're overloaded with how amazing this game truly is in terms of its performances, in terms of its gameplay, in terms of its build potential. There's just so much here to compliment. And while you do see that in terms of sales and player reviews, it's also noticeable in a place like Steam, in which people are going out of their way to buy this game because this is an experience that people want to have in their catalog. It's not a game that some people, especially myself, I don't want to just rent it. This is a game that I want to have on the wall, have a physical copy, and play it, whenever I can. And on Steam right now, a month after launch, it's still around 55,000 players.
Oh.
That is beyond impressive, especially for a game that is available on Game Pass. And we've seen other massive franchises like.
No one really cares about Game Pass. Well, there is going to be some push probably for Xbox to put Game Pass on PC. There definitely is going to be some kind of push there because, again, it's like, why would they ever try to compete? PlayStation has way more players than Xbox, and computers have way more players than both of them together. So it's not a. There's going to be some kind of Xbox push soon, I imagine, for you buying Game Pass for PC games.
Like Doom struggling to engage any players.
And yes,
you can
it
look to
already
another massive
exists,
release
but they're gonna push it.
from Ubisoft. Assassin's Creed Shadows barely even reached those heights, and that's a massive franchise. So I think the success that we are seeing with Expedition 33, it's just unprecedented, and we rarely see that. And it just represents a path forward that really hasn't been talked about enough. But look, the fundamental formula, the actual game style of Expedition 33 isn't this, massive foreign concept that's impossible to create. This has been there. This is something that a lot of other publishers could have engaged with. And the main thing what people are talking about is Square Enix. Analysts have actually brought this up. Square Enix is probably kicking itself seeing the success of realistic turn-based JRPG Expedition 33, analysts say, after being reticent to do it with the Final Fantasy series. If you asked Final Fantasy fans from the late 90s, early 2000s,
Oh man, Yeah, but Square Enix decided to go for the modern audience. They did.
What the ideal version of a JRPG should look like, it'd be something like this. And I think that really just says a lot about the stagnation in creativity and the fact that so much of this industry is so scared about taking risks. And the only risks that we are seeing is it truly is chasing trends, trying to find a microtransaction fountain. That is just what we've become accustomed to. And that's why I do think, like I said, the last couple of years in terms of RPGs and the focus so many of them have, it just doesn't feel like it's focused on what actually, players want. It's focused on the modern audience and trying to make a game that is as open and friendly to everybody, but at the same time, we've talked extensively about how that hurts the main audience and how that hurts the overall experience, because when you're trying to satisfy everybody, you're not going to satisfy anyone. And that's why I think like the controversy surrounding
Oh,
Dragon Age the Veilguard, this just continues to boil over. We continue to hear from individuals that are part of the development, lashing out at gamers, lashing out at players, not understanding.
and the best part, by the way, oh, this is something I didn't even mention. The best part about like the failure of Dragon Age, your environments are so dull and stupid, and it's clearly exposition. I There should be exposition in games, but you should also make it that you don't 100% understand and know that you're never actually going to be able to go to the exposition. Unlike Dragon Age, where you know, oh, look at that, that's a cool thing right there. Guess I'll never be able to see it. Yeah, exactly. And then you can't even traverse the shitty environment fast because your sprint is not really sprinting. It's like a slight throttle.
Why it was so divisive, but it really is quite clear why it was. We actually heard recently from the Dragon Age the Veilguard actress, they defended the game saying people were attacking the game before it was released. You know why?
Uh,
Because people looked at the gameplay, looked at the trailers, looked at the art direction, and saw
huh. I guess I'm not the only one who thinks you can compare Clair Obscur really well with Dragon Age Railguard.
that this wasn't Dragon Age. And that's something that so many of us are saying with so many of these core franchises, and they're just monstrosities of what they used to be. The complexity, what made them special are no longer there. They've been
So
rooted out
dull.
with just a lot of nonsense. And that's really what this AAA games industry has become known for. And that's why people have lashed out even before launch with BioWare, because they knew what was coming and they ended up being right. But this specific actress, they talked
Dude, this is such dull combat, is it not? Does anyone look at this and be like, whoa, that's cool?
they played the female Inquisitor in Dragon Age Inquisition and Veilguard, and they spoke to IGN about Veilguard, and they said they were absolutely devastated that the game didn't sell as well as expected and receive so much backlash, despite most critics' reviews ranging from quite good to excellent. But the problem is, those critic reviews, they were very controlled by Electronic Arts, the publisher, and if you actually looked at user reviews, they were quite mixed. If you go
Yeah, again, critic reviews don't matter, but obviously all the people who are gonna work on the game are gonna say critic reviews matter. And if they don't, they're probably gonna get fired or reprimanded.
on Steam, it's like a 70 or so. That's not great, and a lot
Like all of the industry has a very indated reason and need to hold critic reviews above actual player reviews. Otherwise, all of this just House of Cards collapses.
of people did not buy the game. So look, that's the fundamental issue with all of this. You can point to some of the critic reviews, but the core audience, they did not show up because they were not interested in this product that looked like it was very divorced from what Dragon Age used to be known for. But this actor did say, I also think a lot of people kind of wanted to see it fail or wanted to see BioWare fail, either because they're just really bad people on the internet, of which there are
That's me. I wanted to see them fail. I have absolutely no quarrel with the concept of you make shit product, you pay for making shit product, and you burn.
unfortunately many, as we have discovered, and that's a cop-out response, and that doesn't understand or really try to dive into why people were dissatisfied with this new Dragon Age entry and why people were really worried for the last couple of years with BioWare, period, because it's not like Dragon Age the Veilguard came out of the middle of nowhere. We had Anthem, we had Mass Effect Andromeda. A lot of us already saw the fears, a lot of us already saw the concerns, and then the marketing and everything the developers were saying, it just did not sound appealing. And then finally, when release day came, it just confirmed all of our suspicions. And that's not
It's not even what they said. People are smart enough to just look at a trailer and go like, "Oh wow, this is gonna be bad."
exclusive just to this franchise. This is what we are seeing with so many RPGs, so many games in general. And to piggyback on that, we actually did hear again from another former BioWare developer, Dragon Age writer David Gator. He talked about Expedition 33 and also Baldur's Gate 3, some of the most notable RPGs in the last couple of years, some of the most successful, and he says they prove what's possible when a game is given time to cook. And the problem is associating that with
we read this article. It was so funny, but because the implication here is, oh yeah, Clair Obscur, a game that was made in less than 10 years, and like Dragon Age the Veil God, which was made in 11 years. Yeah, sure. Time to cook, my dude.
Dragon Age the Veilguard, that's just ridiculous because that game had 8, 9, 10 years of development. That was not the core problem with the game. It was the fact that it was just divorced from what players wanted. It was a poor imitation of a...
It literally was just super woke. Again, you establish your trans identity.
New Dragon Age game.
And if you don't know, I'm not joking. That's literally what you do in the game. There is no way to avoid that. You have to establish your trans identity in the lore because reasons.
Now, while that headline with Gator's remarks are a little bit out there, his actual extensive comments do kind of make a little bit more sense. He says, I think there's such a thing as expanding the audience as opposed to treating the audience as this finite number of people, right? And I think that's what Expedition 33 really does. I think it manages to take the elements of JRPGs, and I don't think it's going to do, it's doing a lot of new things, honestly. It's taking a number of more recent trends and kind of bundling them in an interesting way that I think makes it very accessible to people who normally wouldn't play JRPGs, which, yeah, that includes myself. And he said this.
That's a lie. This combat is not accessible in the slightest, okay? If this combat is really not accessible in the slightest unless you want to play on super easy game journalist difficulty, okay? But yeah, this combat is not accessible.
Successes of Clair Obscur and Baldur's Gate 3 also demonstrates what's possible when a game is given time to cook. Baldur's Gate 3 had an extended and very front-facing early access period, while Clair Obscur director Guillermo Brochet said earlier in May that it would have taken years to get the project approved at
Guillermo Brochet. Probably. Again, not even French, by the way.
His former company, Ubisoft. And again, that's all the bureaucracy. That's just a lot of the politics that is going on at a company like Ubisoft, which employs like 13,000 people. And that gets in the way of making great games. And that's why we keep getting open world nonsense from, Assassin's Creed, and which is really regressed in so many regards.
I'm fine with the open world nonsense, but make it fun.
Into what the franchise used to be known for. They are hurting. The creativity has stagnated at that company, and it's not going to get better. Because
listen, I'm fine with open world nonsense. I'm fine with battle pass nonsense. I am fine with live service nonsense. Some of my favorite games, all of them have that, and most likely so do yours. Because none of this matters as long as the game's just good. If the game is bad, we will instinctively just look at the bad aspects, parts that make it up, and then we're going to point to those things. But if the game's good, no one cares.
Because fundamentally, they aren't changing how they're making games. Publisher...
Again, Dragon's Dogma. Released 10 FPS in the city? Who cares? Good enough.
Want mass appeal. Gator said they want to feel comfortable, de-risk it by imagining how the appeal translates to many different kinds of audiences, which I think often kind of ends up diluting that very specific thing a game can do. Like I said, what Baldur's Gate 3 did and what Expedition does is, yes, they appeal very, very strongly to that one audience, but it's so strong that it ends up growing that audience, which that part of that statement is absolutely true. And he even furthermore said some other remarks, which I think it just opens up a little bit more about what these AAA executives are thinking and how broken this industry has become. And look, I've really been disgusted by a lot of the RPGs the last couple of years, and even questioned if I enjoy these games anymore, just because of the stagnation and creativity from so many of these studios that I used to look up to. You look at a game like Dragon Age the Veilguard, fans of the franchise, people who stuck around through the ups and downs, got a game that barely resembled the dark, political, mature RPGs of the series that was what this used to be known for. The art direction leaned heavily into bright, exaggerated animation. The tone felt lighter, more casual, more sanitized. And while the combat was serviceable,
Yeah, everything was no. The combat was still bad.
Well, it lacked the strategic depth that used to define Dragon Age. And even David Gator, he weighed in early on saying that the tone was different. This was a different experience. But the game's post-release discussion wasn't revolved around its story or mechanics, but about how alienating it.
I mean, okay, let's finish it off with the last Dragon Age take, okay? In the first 30 minutes of Dragon Age, roughly, you go into this town that has been taken over by the Blight, and then you find a lot of dead people, blah, 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 blah. And then you at the end find the mayor of the city or town or whatever. And then you have your choices, your moral consequences. And the game tries really hard to tell you, oh, this is a game where you choose the outcome of things. And let me set the scenario for you, right? If you don't know. Evil gods break out of prison. Now they're doing bad things. They have the ability to mind control people effectively, or something along those lines. Now, no one's actually sure. And there's this town that has been taken over by the Blight. And at the end, you find the mayor of it, and all of the responsibility of all of the bad things happening falls on him because he's mind controlled or something like that. And because he somehow magically allowed that to happen for the evil gods, now it's his responsibility and fault that all the villagers are dead and whatnot. And it could be actually a pretty good conversation about, oh, is he actually at fault here because they can control minds? Maybe he didn't do it willingly. But no, your options are, he didn't do anything, I don't care. I'll kill him now because reasons. Or, it's your fault all of this happened because you as a normal person did not resist the mind-controlling powers of literally two ancient gods. That's it. That's it. And there's, by the way, hints that the guy says, "Oh, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I was being mind controlled. My decisions were not my own," which is actually a decent conversation to have, right? But the other characters then start going like, "No, you let those evil gods control you. You wanted all of your friends and family to die for nothing." What? This is the dialogue? What? Yeah, that's it. That's literally as deep as it goes. And thankfully, that was pretty much the only actual decision you have to make in that shit game, but it is what it is. Anyway, Legacy Killer HD, 10 out of 10. Bye!